everyone on Periscope, Instagram and Facebook. Welcome to our weekly live Q&A. I was actually going to be joined by one of the guys that you may have seen recently on our LA mansion tours, Chris Ricks. George, you going to sit down? Sit. Thank you. He was going to join us today, but unfortunately had a listing presentation, so we are not joined by him today. But we do have George, who is our open house dog, who is going to jump down. If you get back up, George, I'll give you a treat. So welcome. Sorry for the lack of communication that we've had actually over the last couple of weeks. I've actually been travelling in Boston. We went to, actually my wife's sister was graduating from Harvard, so we were, you want the treat? So we were in Boston, which was fantastic. I've never been to that city before, and actually it is a beautiful, beautiful place in the world. Highly recommend that for anyone who hasn't been there. Hi everyone on Instagram. If you have any questions for us, as always, George, if you have any questions, please put them up and we will answer them as much as we can. As I said actually earlier, we were going to be joined today by Chris Ricks. Unfortunately, he had a listing presentation. George, get back up here. Thank you. So I was going to talk him through, actually, he's a very established agent in Arkansas, or has been, and still does a lot of transactions there. He's obviously moved over to the LA market now, so I thought that would be a really interesting kind of different way of looking at how things work in different states. But unfortunately he's not joined us today. George, you relax please. I'm going to have to put him away if he continues like this. But anyway, sorry for the lack of communication. Obviously we haven't had LA mansion tours on for the last couple of weeks. I was in London last week seeing friends and actually had a family wedding. If you guys managed to catch up on any of the content that we put out on our Instagram channel, you may have seen we went to this incredible church. It's 1,000 years old effectively. They've dated it to like 1040. You're rude, man. I think 1080 was when they think the construction started on the church, and it is absolutely incredible. So I think there's actually a picture of that on our feed. If you guys are interested in that, definitely go and check that out. I think it was actually when my parents got married. It's where I was christened as a young boy, and actually my cousins actually have a farm with my uncle very close to where that is, and had an incredible wedding, which we were very, very blessed to be a part of. So sorry again for lack of communication, but hopefully you guys enjoyed some of the content, the travelling stuff that we put out there. Anyway, it's been a really, really busy week for Hutchinson Johnstone. I actually landed back in LA on Tuesday. And you are just obsessed with food right now, right? That's it. We landed back in LA on Tuesday with my wife, so I've been going through that little bit of jet lag over the last couple of days. I was actually waking up about 2 o'clock last night, woke up at 3 a.m. this morning, and then ended up kind of actually getting back to sleep. So I think I'm getting over that jet lag, which is kind of awesome. So hopefully that's not going to affect us anymore. So then we've actually had a huge amount happen since I was away. That generally happens definitely with our sort of business partnership, David and I, and Nick, who's our team mate as well. When one of us goes out of town, it seems like all the business just sort of floods in at that stage. I think actually we look at it as an awesome attribute to having a business partnership, as opposed to just having one agent doing all the business by themselves. The reason being is because actually we can go off and actually enjoy ourselves, have an incredible time traveling around the world. Dave was actually in Utah hiking, I believe, last weekend. Obviously I was in London, and if we've always got someone kind of on the ground, then it allows us to continually do business all throughout the year and not kind of have these breaks. Because I know that when I used to work at my old business or my old brokerage in London, you kind of go off and you take a week holiday, and it would be the worst thing, because actually that whole 4 days before, your brain's not really booking appointments. It becomes this kind of situation where you're thinking about the flight and where you're going to be going, and it gets all exciting, and you're not really exactly booking showings and listing presentations for that next week. Obviously, while you are away, you're not booking anything because you're having a holiday. So that week after, when you come back, is also sort of empty, and you're kind of starting to re-get the rhythm going. So it becomes this kind of odd situation where 1 week holiday, generally for real estate agents, becomes a bit of 3 weeks of sort of dead business in that time. How did you get started? Thank you, Josh John, for the question. I actually started after university. I was quite big in events when I was at university. I was involved in the the biggest student-run charity in Europe called Carnival, and basically what they do is arrange student-like events, sell club tickets, go off and take a double-decker bus to other cities and collect money on the streets, and then obviously have a big party on the bus on the way home. Basically how it was sort of done is to make contributing to charity an interesting thing for students, which obviously is quite difficult when they're tight on money, etc., etc. Loved being a part of that, loved making connections, arranging things, doing all of the sort of face-to-face work. So when I left university, I was actually thinking about getting into the events industry. That's actually in the UK, I haven't actually looked into it over here, but it's so much in demand that you actually need to effectively do like a year's worth of free intern work to just get a position in a company to then get paid a salary. I was not interested in that. I wanted to start earning money from day one. Looked at how the different industries that kind of related into that worked. Real estate being one where actually you're kind of, it's an events kind of face-to-face sales job, but actually you are doing a lot of that sort of fine touching, making sure that everything is working. And so I kind of went, interviewed at a couple of real estate companies, ended up joining Foxtons in London. My wife and I were dating long distance. She lived in California, I was living in London at the time. And so then actually kind of worked through that for about 4 years. We actually then got engaged, moved over here. When I was over here, I loved what I did, and actually I really prefer how the industry works here. You earn a lot more money, the commissions are a lot bigger. So for us, or for myself personally, I absolutely love working in real estate, and especially in the state of California. So that's kind of what led me into where I am now. But anyway, so giving you guys an update. Obviously I've been traveling, David's been traveling as well. We have 3 properties in escrow at the moment. We actually closed one last week on Friday, which was a good one to close. A client actually who buys quite a lot of property through us. They have actually, they're kind of buying lots of land, knocking down what is on there, building condo units, and obviously that helps a lot with the LA housing shortage that we now have. So that was a property in North Hollywood. We closed that at $1.3 million on Friday last week. So really, really happy with that. And our clients are very happy that they're going to sort of start breaking ground and getting some of the sort of process underway in terms of the build out for that. George, I will give you a treat if you're giving me a sit there. So yeah, so that was a good one. We actually have another property in escrow, which is one of our listings. A close friend and client who actually, we sold him a house in Hollywood earlier this year. He had a house that he bought a couple of years ago in Venice. So obviously wanted to sell that, was in no particular rush to get that sold. But actually we found a broker within our office who we've done some work with in the past. Okay, you're just going to take that. He had a client who was actually looking. We did the first showing. They came in with an offer below asking price, but obviously it hadn't hit the market yet, so we decided we are going to accept asking price or we are going to bring it to the market. They came up to that. We've gone through the inspection period on that. We've done the request for repairs, etc., etc. And that has now made it that we've removed all contingencies, and that is looking like it will close, I believe, June 12th. Is the date we're lining that up for. We also actually have an office on Albert Kinney we have in escrow. We've actually removed all contingencies. Everything is ready for that to close. It was due to close at the end of this month, but actually we granted the seller an extension. So if he would like an extra 2 months to find the property that he is going to basically put the money and the proceeds from selling this office into, then we'll kind of give him that leeway. So it could end up closing the end of August, this is the kind of latest, but we're hoping to close that at the end of this month. So fingers crossed that all goes well, and there's kind of nothing really to do on that one now. It's just aligning the closing date. There is a thing actually which is quite an interesting topic here in California called a 1031 exchange. Now what that means is if you sell a property in California, you have to pay capital gains tax on that property. Now what that means is if you've made profit, you bought it at $1 million and you sell it at $1.5 million, that $500,000 in profit is taxable. So you have to pay capital gains tax on that $500,000. You have an individual exemption in LA, or in California, of $250,000 per person and $500,000 for a married couple. Now, a lot of people obviously do not want to pay tax on that profit that they've got. So there is a kind of tax loophole called a 1031 exchange. What you end up doing is you take the proceeds of that sale, and if you put it into another property within a couple of months of selling that property, you do not need to pay capital gains on it, and you basically kind of roll over the capital gains when you sell the next property. Now, if you die and you pass that property in your will to someone in your trust, etc., that actually becomes not suitable for them to pay. So it is a very common thing, especially at the high price point, that when individuals sell properties, if they're going to buy something else in California, then they will generally want to do a 1031 exchange. So that is what's going on with that property. We actually also put another one in escrow yesterday, which is awesome. This is actually one in Westchester. If any of you guys don't know where Westchester is, it is a fantastic part of LA. Really an area actually that if you're looking to invest in LA, it is one of those areas that I really pick as kind of where the price point is at now, its location and the plans for the future. It's going to be a really great place to park some money. It's going to have a strong rental return, and we are expecting that market to do really well over the next couple of years. Reasons being is it is obviously right next to LAX. We have the 2028 Olympics, which is now coming to Los Angeles, which is really, really exciting. And so that is going to actually involve an extension of the Metro line service that we currently have in LA. LA is an amazing city. It's incredibly well spread out, but it does not have a lot of good sort of public transport. So obviously when the 2028 Olympics were approved in LA, they've decided and they had to agree to extend all of the metro lines, the underground or the overground in LA at the moment, but they will be building it as underground service, which obviously coming from London, the tube is how everyone gets everywhere. So we're really excited for that. It will extend to LAX, which means LAX and that whole area will become a lot more accessible, and it's not just a place that people are driving to get on a plane to go somewhere. As well, guys, if you have any questions, as I said, put them up on the screen, and we will get to them as we can. So basically, that's one of the reasons I think Westchester is a great area to invest in. Another reason that I think Westchester is another really good area to invest in is it's right by Silicon Beach. Now that's the new Silicon Valley. It's where a lot of these tech companies and startups have now started moving a second office to. Playa Vista is kind of the heart of that. But there is a huge, I think 10,000 employee Google office that is going to be going in right there. And obviously Google employees are very well skilled and they are very well paid, which means you're going to have 10,000 people all looking for somewhere to rent within that area. And so the demand for high-end rentals is going to soar over the next couple of years. Facebook are also putting in a large office space there as well. So we're expecting the demand for those high-end rentals to go up. So if you can afford to buy somewhere, do it up. It's going to sort of have a guaranteed strong rental market for the next few years. And obviously, as those employees look to buy property, that then becomes the kind of thing for them is that they are going to be looking, and the prices in the sales market we're expecting to rise as well. We have another property actually in escrow at the moment, which we've mentioned before on our live Q&A, which is in Westchester. So that is a property. Sorry, it's not in Westchester, it's in Inglewood. That's my brain running this morning, not doing a great job with the jet lag. But Inglewood, which again is another great area to invest in. The Rams Stadium is being built there at the moment, and actually we've got one in escrow at the moment, which is just half a mile, I believe, from that Rams Stadium that is going up. So that property is actually in escrow for a charity. It was actually some adverts that we were running for our real estate business within Venice and in sort of the areas that we focus on, our core markets in LA. We got a couple of actually, I sit and wear a suit every day. Obviously I wear a pink shirt every Friday. But we had a few issues actually where people were writing back comments saying, look, stop selling expensive houses, you're driving the local population out of Venice in this area, which obviously we don't think that we're doing, but it's a big issue that we have in a gentrifying area of LA, Venice, that we're selling in, is that a lot of people that have lived there and built the community as to be what it is that they are obviously not able to afford the rental prices and now the prices for buying property there. So we kind of responded to a lot of those comments saying, look, that's not what we're trying to do. Obviously we do sell property and demand and supply drives these prices to where they are, and it's an incredible place to live that you've created. So if there's any way for us to support the local community, please let us know. They actually put us in touch with a local charity called SPY, Safe Place for Youth. Amazing charity. If you guys have the opportunity to go and check them out, I would 100% go to their website, put in a donation every month if you can. Basically what they do is they look after young homeless people who are basically dumped on the streets out of the foster care system or out of being in bad homes where they're not looked after, and it allows a level of support there where they're getting lunch on a Monday to a Friday supported for them and given to them for free, some clothing, they're given the ability to re-get their GED or their high school certificate so that they can get jobs, and putting them in touch and going down a path where they can go and interview and get jobs. The main issue that they have is housing. Obviously it's a homeless charity, but they've got, the city has a system where they basically will guarantee rent for any of these people that have got themselves into a position where they are ready to rent something. And it will basically pay $1,600 a month, which may sound like a huge amount of money. Unfortunately in LA it does not go very far, and they will pay for someone for a year so they can get up and on their feet. They can go out into interviews and get themselves a job, and then eventually start paying for their own rent. Now the issue that this charity has had is that they have not had the ability to find landlords that are willing to take that charity donation, because obviously there's a lot of stigma around homeless people. Now we have some investors who do a lot of charity work. They're very philanthropic. They do a lot of their own developments here, so they're very clued in with how returns work in LA, what they need in terms of per unit cost and rent to basically make it worthwhile for them as an investment. And so they actually have bought a piece of land in Inglewood, which is half a mile from this Rams Stadium, and we'll be closing that, I believe, in about 30 days, and that will basically be provided just for the homeless people, the young homeless, which will hopefully give them a hand to get them off their feet, which we're really, really happy to be a part of. We now give a percentage of our commissions every month, or sorry, every transaction into the charity to help sort of build that community and help the people in the community that, you know, we see as being affected by what's happening. So hopefully that is a really sort of good thing. Nick, lovely to see you. Happy birthday for yesterday, mate. Hope you're enjoying San Francisco. Pity we don't have you here today. You've been replaced by this little guy, the open house dog, George. But anyway, we're hoping to close that soon. All contingencies have been removed on that one, so we're really, really happy that that's another one that hopefully will close soon. So we've closed one last week. We've got another 3 in escrow at the moment. Everything seems to be going very well for Hutchinson Johnstone at the moment. So if you guys have any questions about how we've got here, it's kind of actually about 2 years since we've been trading in California and licensed. I'm actually going through my broker's license at the moment, having done that level of transactions and doing it full time. I'm able to do that. But we're really, really happy with where we are at the moment. We were having a sort of sit down with our manager the other day, and she said, look, you're about a year ahead of where you should be in terms of where we see most of our agents doing what they're doing. So that really has made us very, very happy. So if you guys have any questions at all, we're trying to build this community where obviously I think a lot of people are very interested in real estate and you know what beautiful houses look like with our LA mansion tours. But obviously if there are any people out there looking about or thinking about getting into real estate, we get a lot of questions from people asking, you know, how to go about it, what the sort of tips and tricks are to sort of get to where we've got to in that 2 years, and then we're more than happy to share all of that information with you guys, so reach out to us at any time. So that's kind of what we've been up to. Hopefully you guys are finding sort of what we're up to interesting. As I always say as well, we would love some feedback from you. If you think there's something that we could do better, we will absolutely listen and we will try and do that to the best of our ability. One thing actually that we had a lot of questions about recently, and actually why I'm kind of making it the topic of today, is our 360 technology. Now we see this emerging over the next 5 to 10 years as a very, very strong platform or a new sort of technology that's going to influence real estate quite strongly. Now, at the moment, obviously, we do a lot of showings. We think that actually a lot of people, when VR technology has got to the level which it's close to now, but it's accepted in society, that actually people may just do 100 VR showings from home, or they'll come into our office, come into a pod, look through the houses, so they can kind of walk through, look around, get the light, the proportions of the room, etc., etc. Things that you don't really get on a 2D camera. But we're really keeping an eye on that technology because we see it sort of emerging. There's a company called Matterport that build a camera that basically do a sort of street view of any properties, so that you can kind of sort of click around. Obviously, you're still doing it on a 2D screen and not in a VR environment, but that's really had a very strong uptick in what it's doing in real estate and the amount of realtors that are using that technology. So whenever we're doing LA Mansion tours at the moment, I generally bring this with me. Now this is a 360 camera, and thanks Nick for the comment. Absolutely, really excited to be doing deals with you at the moment, and it's going to be a really, really strong end to this year. I think actually we're almost halfway through the year now today, so it's definitely one of those moments where we're looking at what we've done, what we've achieved, and what we need to get achieved by the end of the year. So this is what we take into on the LA Mansion tours. If there's any of our listings, we actually do like a 360 tour. It may look basically like a truncheon, which a lot of people in the office have told me before. They kind of, and George is looking at it right now thinking, what is this? Are you going to hit me with it? Because it does actually just kind of look like, what do you think, George? No, it doesn't like it. It is a selfie stick, which is probably why it looks like a truncheon. This thing extends out so that you can kind of get a sort of higher perspective or different views, which actually I think is really interesting and actually a really cool feature of this camera. But this is actually the camera. So I don't know if you can see here on Facebook, Instagram, and on Periscope, but basically it has two lenses. It's just got a little button here. It's got a little adapter right here, which actually, if you can see right there, it is an iPhone adapter, so this is built for the iPhone. Someone on Periscope just said a new police weapon. That's exactly what everyone in my office thinks that I've got, is a truncheon that I'm going to hit people with. It is not that. But basically what this camera can do is that can plug into the bottom of your phone. You can actually look at what you're capturing on the screen of your iPhone. Obviously I can't show you that right now because we're recording our Facebook Live and Instagram Live, Periscope Live Q&A on them right now. But if you guys would like us to make a video on how we kind of use this technology, definitely let us know because it's something that we can do very easily. So it can record by itself on its own. So just like that, I basically just hit this button on the side, it powers up. If I double tap it, it starts recording a video, so I can kind of walk through and record everything around the sphere of this camera, or alternatively it can take 2D photos. The other one actually that we found really is turning some heads at the moment and people are becoming really interested in is a thing that this camera does, the Insta360 I'll show you that, that's the logo there for you guys. Awesome company based in Hong Kong, I believe. We've actually written some blog posts for them in the past, and they are really incredible about updating their technology constantly. But what is amazing with it is they've actually released a new feature called bullet time. Now what it does is when I'm recording, and if I tap 3 times on this camera and I stick it out in front of me, it will basically know where the bottom of the camera is. It will focus onto it once we put it into the camera and it's kind of stitched itself up. But the amazing thing is it will stitch out the selfie stick. So if you can imagine, I'm walking down and through a property and it's basically like having a drone flying in front of you or someone with a camera in front of you looking back at you with a 360 kind of wide angle lens. So you're kind of exploring. The other one, and actually where they show a lot of people using it, is that you rotate it around your head, and obviously it's always focusing back on the middle, so you kind of get this effect of something swinging around you, filming back on you, which actually I think is really cool. Now the quality of this, obviously it's a $250 camera, I believe, is not amazing. It's actually very, very good considering how small that is, that it's got a battery in it, and actually it's basically just doing it standalone for that price. But it obviously is not of the HD quality where we are kind of looking at it and we're thinking, okay, this is going to be something that we put up on the website for the property, for the listing, and we use it as the main kind of thing to market the property. But actually we love playing around with it. We've picked up a lot of followers into our community who are obviously into new technology, into where they think real estate is going, the future of real estate and the business. And actually we see this as being a very, very big part of that, whether it's the big, 360 camera that records in 4K so that you can actually kind of like experience it, or if it's the Matterport kind of scanning the environment so that you walk through, I definitely see this as being a bit of a game changer in our industry. So we play around with it, we buy, we test, and I think if you follow and you join our community over the next sort of 5-10 years, you will see hopefully that what we're saying is correct and how that kind of translates. Anyway, we've actually got a couple of lease listings that we've closed recently as well. We had one that we've closed for a company called Outsite, another awesome company. If you guys have the opportunity to check that out, definitely do. It's a work away concept. So you may have heard of WeWorks and sort of shared workspace environments. This is if you can work from home and you've got your laptop, you can basically travel all around the world and stay in one of these kind of like hostel environments, and then obviously do your work, and you can go and experience different cultures and almost travel and work at the same time. Amazing concept, great in Venice, and actually they've had an incredibly strong reaction. You wanted to get on here? They've had an incredibly strong reaction to releasing a couple of properties that we leased for them at the end of, it's coming up to a year and a half ago now, almost the start of our real estate journey. They now have just done another one, which is again in Venice, because the demand for, I think, people to be here, to work, to be close to the beach, to be able to explore everything is incredible. So we just closed another lease for them. It was a 5-bedroom on Luella Ave for $9,000 a month, which may sound like a huge amount of money, but for 5 bedrooms in LA, it actually is not that large amount of money. It's actually a fairly good deal. And then also we had another lease listing, which is our own lease, that we ended up finding a tenant for. They're using that actually as a sort of live workspace. So it's going to be like an office space for them to meet clients, very close to Abbot Kinney. And I think that was actually at $8,000 that we did that. Only thing that our owner had to do, I say only thing, is to put in some new hardwood flooring, which obviously is quite a big thing to do. The new tenant split some of the cost of that, and actually the owner wanted to do it anyway. So really, really positive. Those leases kind of tend to go to the back of my brain, because obviously I think the payout in terms of commission for us as agents is not nearly as large, but it is definitely a really, really good thing to sort of keep the business running. You know, obviously when we're trying to sell these $2 million+ properties, they don't come every week, and when they do, sometimes they'll fall out of escrow, etc., etc. So to keep doing the leasing, I would say, is definitely a very, very strong point that I would pass on to anyone looking to get into real estate, especially over those first couple of years, because obviously you pay your rent, you pay your bills, you're not being paid a salary, and you are taking a large percentage of the commission that you're bringing in, but it's not guaranteed and it's not every month, and those lease transactions are a lot smaller and a lot more regular. People tend to sort of lease something once a year, as opposed to buying. It's like every 2 to 5 years is kind of the window in which you'll see people changing residences. So hopefully that's interesting to you guys. Thank you so much, Diego, Realtor in Houston. Love to sort of find out actually from you, and if you have any points on how it differs in California from what you're seeing from our community to how it works in Houston for you, we would love to know, and definitely reach out to us, because we do actually have some clients who end up buying in that part of the world, and we'd love to refer some business over to you. And if you ever have anyone in LA or California, definitely reach out to us, and we'll find you an agent in the right area, or we will look after any of your clients with the highest level of service that we can provide. Anyway, I think that's pretty much a good roundup for today. Sorry if I kind of waffled a little bit and was distracted by this little guy, George. I've got actually a pretty busy weekend. David's actually got a friend who is starting to DJ every other week in a house music venue in Santa Monica. It's a really, really awesome location, and actually David and I are very much into our house and techno music. So we're thinking of arranging some kind of event where we're going to host a couple of tables, invite clients, invite people in our community over to join us, have a couple of drinks, catch up. If you think that is a good idea, guys, definitely let us know, and we'll try and extend some invites and kind of get a guest list going or something like that. So we'll do it every 2 weeks. I had a surf this morning, which was a little bit lacking. Hopefully you guys were able to tune in and see some of that on our Instagram story, Hutch Johnstone, if you're watching on any of the other platforms. I actually took out a smaller board because I dinged my board falling off it before I left to London on the skateboard. So I took it a smaller board and it was a bad mistake. The waves did not have much power in them, super clean, beautiful, beautiful morning, sun everywhere. But unfortunately, it was definitely pretty tough to get some waves, and there were a lot of people in the water, I think because it had rained a couple of days ago, so people tend to leave surfing for a couple of days because obviously all of the dirt from the streets washes out into the ocean, and they say for sort of health safety reasons you should leave that for as much as you can before getting back in the water. So that was great. I'm going to try and get a lot more surfing done this weekend. I've actually been playing some video games as well recently. We're on Twitch. Hutch Time is kind of what I've called that. If any of you guys are on Twitch, definitely try and follow us. We would love that support from you. We've been thinking about how to play that into our real estate business, and actually we have an incredible listing right now in Ojai, which is like a 27-acre property. So we're thinking of maybe building our listing in a game in Fortnite. So if you guys think that's interesting, if you think it's stupid, let us know that as well. But it's definitely something that I think is a bit out of the box, a bit different, and building virtually one of our listings I think could be quite interesting. Diego, if you're in LA on the 11th, definitely reach out to us. We can go for a coffee, catch up. I've actually got some showings on the 10th, but the 11th I think actually I'm looking pretty free. So definitely reach out. We'd love to hear from you. Love to set up a meeting and try and build that network of realtors across the US. But anyway, guys, I will leave you to have a great weekend. I hope the rest of you have a fantastic Friday wherever you are. As I said, feedback's always welcome. Thank you for being a part of our community. If there's anything that we can do for you, we would always like to hear that, as we will try and do our best to do whatever. Open House Dog George here. I think we're going to take him on some walks. I've actually got some showings in Laguna next week as well. And as I said, LA Mansion Tours is going to be back on Tuesday. So hopefully you guys haven't missed that too much. And sorry for the 2-week hiatus. Obviously I fell off a board, had to go and get that checked out the last week. And I was in London flying back from a flight this week. So kind of couldn't get into houses in Beverly Hills, Bel Air, as I'm sure you can appreciate. But anyway, hope you guys have a great day. Pink shirt is on as always. It's dress down Fridays in our office, so most people are dressed down. We're actually moving out of this office as well. We have a new own private location on Rodeo Drive that we've been given by our brokerage. So really, really excited to decorate that, to play around with it. So if you guys have any suggestions on how we can do that better, definitely let us know that as well. I guess that's it. So I'm going to round it up. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and we'll be back with more updates next week. And I don't think we're closing anything at the moment next week, but we definitely will be removing contingencies on some more. So there'll be some updates. Anyway, hope you guys are good. Speak to you guys soon. Bye-bye.